Hey everyone, welcome back. Hope everyone had a great weekend. So in the United States, we celebrated our Labor Day today, which is on Monday, so the markets were closed. Not much going on with the miners. We do have some news that Cleanspark came out Friday with a late SEC filing that they're going to be increasing their shares by 300 million or so. Well, 300 million, getting to 600 million potentially. We'll talk about that a little bit. We'll also take a look at the miners here as far as what is their break-even number estimates. These are estimates that I have for them. These are not the actual numbers that they probably have provided, maybe or maybe not provided. But I'm hoping to be at least close to what they reported. We'll take a look at that. We'll look at also the miners, how they did last week and in the last 52 weeks, basically. So we'll see what's going on there, okay? And then we'll get into tomorrow. We should have like Bitfarms reporting, maybe some other miners reporting as well for their August numbers. So we'll have the latest information on those guys as well. Okay, so that's all we got going on here today. As always, you guys know the drill. Not financial advice. For entertainment only. Do your own research. And double check my research also, because I can make mistakes from time to time. You guys know my full disclosure down below that. Hit the like button, subscribe. Helps me out tremendously. And let's take a look at here what's going on in Bitcoin really quick. Bitcoin's actually up for the month, at least for September now, a little bit. Excuse me. But Bitcoin had a swing a little bit. Let's see here. We were on Sunday, we were down approximately 2.83%. On the 2nd of September, today we were up a little bit here. We were up 3.21%. So we kind of wiped out or cleared out the losses that we had from Sunday. Monday was a good day. We're up a little bit here again. As you guys know, in the past, we talked about September being typically not a great month for Bitcoin, right? So when we look at this chart over here, you can see September numbers. Right now, we're starting off okay, I would say. Not great, not fantastic, but we're okay. We're up 0.64% on the month so far, but we're only 2 days into it. So a lot can change in that. And as you can see historically here on September, we've only had, like we talked about before, 2016, 2015, that were green months for us. We had 2023 last year was a green month, just slightly, 3.91%. We'll see what this year brings us in September. If we do get anything, it's going to be nothing major. But if we do get a red month, it shouldn't be anything major either. The only really major red month that we had here was back in 2014 with 19% down at that point. But I'm anticipating October to be a much better month. And that's why I've been saying, where was it? On a space. I was on a space on Sunday with A and Bitcoin Mining Site Guy and others as well. And I said at that point, September might be just like the last buying opportunity that you have in this space for the miners, because historically, October, November have been really good months for us before the end of the year here. So at that point, we'll have to see. We might have a down month in December, just profit taking at that point. Also institutions taking profits, putting it on their books as green months potentially, or green quarters or green years, whatever they might have at that point. So that's something to be mindful of, okay? So that's it on that one. Let's talk about Cleanspark really quick here as well. So Cleanspark, like I talked about earlier, they came out with a SEC filing that they are going to be issuing. They're increasing the number of shares available to them to 600 million from 300 million currently. And if you haven't seen Matt's, I can't remember his title right now. But Matt with Cleanspark, he put out a post on X. If you don't follow him, definitely follow him, because he does provide some good information there as well. But basically, it just gives them the ability to use more shares down the road. That doesn't mean that they're going to dilute right away. They can if they wanted to. I don't know if they're going to. I have no insight into that. But I know that they still have an ATM open right now that they are pulling on. I think they are fully funded right now to 50 exahash. I'm pretty sure it's 32 exahash for sure, but I'm thinking it might be even 50 exahash right now for miners, not the facilities right now. So the way I look at it is, has that dilution in the long run been accretive to investors? And I think it has with Cleanspark, right? If you look at Cleanspark, where they came from, just in 2021, they were at 100 petahash in January. They are now, I think, number 2 as far as market cap is concerned. Maybe, I can't remember. I think maybe even CORZ, I think they're number 2 or number 3 right now. We'll have to look at the market caps right now of the miners. But that is a fantastic job for them to do that in about 3.5 years, right? Being one of the smallest ones, 100 petahash, to getting to 21 exahash now. We'll see what they come in for August. So they've done a lot of great things here. They did a lot of great things also in the bear market and to the bull market as well. They sold Bitcoin, so they've done a lot of things that have been accretive to investors. And I would expect them to continue to do that going forward. So I'm not too worried about that. We know that all the miners are going to be diluting. We saw also Riot increase the number of shares that they have available to them as well. So it's one of those things that's going to continue in this industry unless something really, really drastically changes, which might be higher transaction fees being added into it where they don't have to dilute as much. You have much more steady revenue going forward. Those are the types of things that might actually reduce the dilution amounts there. Okay. The other thing is if they start selling their Bitcoin towards the bull market, I don't know exactly when they're going to do that, if they're going to do that, but historically they have done that. So I would expect them to do the same thing now, right? They have about 7,000 at the end of July. Bitcoin and HODL, if they start selling that, towards the peak of Bitcoin, wherever that might be, 150,000, 180, 200,000, wherever that's going to be, they're going to definitely generate a heck of a lot more on the Bitcoin that they have there. So that is valued now at what, like 400 some million or something like that. So if that goes just 3x, that's 1.2 billion that they have in their reserves to basically build out into the bear market again, if we have a bear market, that is. And at that point, we should see much less dilution because of it. So that's kind of what I'm expecting, but you never know, right? If they are going to be buying other miners potentially, as far as publicly traded miners or even private miners, they're going to be diluting because they are trying to grow. They're getting to 50x sometime next year, and maybe even higher than that. We just don't know right now. So for me, it's not a big deal. It comes with the territory being invested in the miners. We saw the same thing happen with I'm not equating or equivalent, or what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not making an equivalent to like the hyperscalers like Amazon, Google, Microsoft, right? But if you look at those guys, the way that they grew, especially Amazon, for the longest time, Amazon was not even profitable. They were just trying to get to scale, building out as much as they can. They diluted like crazy. But in the end, the investors got rewarded for it. So that's kind of the same way I'm looking at these miners because they are so capital intensive. And like I said, I'm okay with it. So you guys can let me know what you guys think of that. All right. But let's get into here we'll get into really quick. What are we going to get into first? Well, let's take a look at the break even, I guess. We'll look at that. Let's see here. Okay. So a little preface on the break even. On the break-even numbers before the CFOs and the CEOs get their pennies in a bunch, I'm only using the data that's available to us based on what they reported in the revenue side, expenses side of things, and I'm trying to take out also like stock-based compensation as well. So what I'm looking at is quarterly expenses for Bitcoin operations. I'm also looking into their general administrative compensation in there, whatever costs are included in that. And then I'm subtracting out the stock-based compensation along with any depreciation in that. I'm not including that as well in this. So that's kind of what I'm looking at there. There might be some other figures that are kind of, in the weeds with all the financials. That's sometimes hard to pull out, especially for somebody like me that's a novice at accounting and things like that when it comes to business financials, especially publicly traded companies. So this is just an estimate, right? So go with that. It's also, I'm putting in there that's, plus or minus 10% to the upside or the downside potentially as well. But this is just kind of what I'm seeing based on the numbers that we do have here for them. All right, so let's get into it with that caveat out of the way and disclosure. And where are we going to go here? Right here. So based on the quarterly results that we had for all the miners here, since IREN was the last one to report here last week, it took me a little while to get this all updated. But we do have it updated now. And we're looking at the quarterly expenses like I talked about here. So we'll take TeraWulf as an example here, right? TeraWulf, we're looking at their operating expenses. We're looking at related party expenses, selling to general administrative, related party, general administrative for themselves, and then other operating income as well. And we're adding it all in there. We're using the energy expense as well, which is just cost of revenues for them. BTC mine, how much they mined in BTC in the quarter. Costs of energy for BTC mined, reported quarterly uptime. So this is based on mine numbers also, what their average uptime was operational for the days in each month. So we're looking at that. So for them, it was basically here, just an example, was 30 days in April, 29.5 days in May, and then 23 days in June here, dividing it by 91 days in those 3 months. And then we're getting the average for that. Then we did the same thing for the latest 3 months, which now includes May, June, and July. We got the average of that. Then the quarterly hash rate average operational expense, right, for that. Kilowatts per petahash based on that as well for the current numbers, current petahash average uptime, what that is. So whatever their hash rate is, multiply times the uptime, that's kind of what they're operating at. That's kind of where we're getting the electrical cost at that point. We're looking at Bitcoin at 65,000. We could probably bring that down because Bitcoin's now at 50. Where's Bitcoin at? Bitcoin's at 59,000, so about 60,000. So let's bring that down to 60,000. And then we got the current network hash rate, 30-day average is roughly around 625 exahash right now as it is. So this is revenue post-halving, total expenses, stock-based compensation last quarter. So I'm trying to take that out as well. Total expenses minus SBC. That's that. Break even without SBC. That's kind of where we're getting the break even for these miners. And you can see that we only have about 4 miners that if we without share-based compensation, with share-based compensation, without share-based compensation, you got 4 miners that are profitable still. You got TeraWolf, Cypher, Cleanspark, and Core. Bitfarms is kind of close, 247,000 off by that. But, we could be off by saying plus or minus 10% on this, okay? So they could be close to being profitable as well. So when we look at the graph down below, this is kind of where we stand right now. On average, an estimated number for TeraWolf is about 43,000. They do have really good cost of electricity. Same thing with Cypher. They came in at 52,000, right? Cleanspark followed by 53,000. Cleanspark has basically reached scale. That's why it's gotten a pretty nice number there. And their costs have gotten up a little bit because of the added employees and everything else. But because they've reached some scale, getting to 21 exahash, things like that, that definitely helps out. They're at 53.6. Yeah, Core at 56,000, Bitfarms at 61, Iris at 64, Riot at 65, BitDeer at 68, Hive at 70,000, BitDigital at 74,000, and Marathon at 79,000, based on the numbers that I have right now. Okay, these are estimates. These are not 100% accurate numbers. These are hopefully within a little bit of a percentage up or down on either way. Okay, but this is kind of the way I'm looking at it. It's kind of nice to kind of get a look at it and see where things stack up right now with the miners. Marathon, historically, we know that their operations weren't that great. They also have higher cost of electricity because they do have still like 45% of their machines being hosted at that point. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm looking at on these things. Okay, you guys can ask me questions about this when we get into the Q&A side of things as well. But that's it for those guys. And then let's take a look at our weekly numbers here really quick as well. Oh, let's take a look at I was going to say, we almost forgot. Where's it at? Market cap numbers. So if we look at the market cap numbers right now, yeah. Okay, so Cleanspark right now is in number 3 spot with 2.6 billion. And then Core Scientific is at 2.66, so just slightly about, 10 million higher than Cleanspark right now. Marathon's still leading the pack with 4.9 billion here. And then you can see everybody else down below on that list. Going back to going to our weekly numbers here, and we can see the numbers from our 52-week lows for the miners and how far away they are from the 52-week highs as well on the red bars. So it's gotten a little interesting here. Bitcoin has moved up quite a bit here in the last week or so, and we have more miners now that are underperforming Bitcoin here compared to overperforming. So we got TeraWolf still outperforming, we got Core outperforming, Cleanspark, IREN outperforming, Cleanspark or Bitfarms. Bitcoin's up 137% for the 52 weeks from its bottom here. BitDeer is 136, Bitfarms 135, Marathon 133. And you go down the list here, and Riot is only up 3.9% from the 52 week. So that one is far, far, far underperforming everybody else here in this space here in the last 52 weeks. Okay, and then you can see how far away they are from their 52-week highs here, or percentage-wise at least. Okay. Looking at the numbers here on the 1 week chart, everybody was down for this past week. Bitcoin's only down 8%. Everybody has underperformed Bitcoin here. The biggest one was HUT being down 20%, followed by BitDigital 16, Cleanspark down 15, Hive down 14, BitDeer 13, Cypher 12, along with TeraWolf. Bitfarms was down 11, Riot was down 11, Marathon was down 11, IREN was down 8. Core was the only one that was down 4% on the week, so it outperformed Bitcoin here a little bit on the weekly. Then on the 4 weeks, we can see that Bitcoin at that point is still down 3%. So you have a lot of miners that have underperformed it. You only have a couple that have outperformed it here in the 4 weeks. And then the 8 weeks chart as well, you can see Bitcoin's actually up 2%. Everybody from 8 weeks ago has underperformed Bitcoin. The biggest one being down here is IREN, down 47%, followed by BitDeer at 43, HUT 8 down 39%. Then we look at 12 weeks. We have Bitcoin being down 10%, and we have some miners now that are at least outperforming it from then. HUT 8, BitDigital, Hive, TeraWolf, and Core are the only ones at that point. Okay, and here's our little table, red and green. We had a nice week the prior week, nice green week here on all the miners and Bitcoin in general. And then last week this past week we were just down on everything. So this might be the correction, and then maybe September is going to be a much better month for us going forward. We'll have to see. But that is it. As always, my sales pitch, you guys. You guys know this. Patreon members get access to all my spreadsheets. The link is down in the description for that. $8 a month is the price you pay for all this information. And then if you pay the annual subscription, you get 10% off of that. And then if you find some spots that are open in the $5 and $4 tier range, which have access to all of these spreadsheets and to the Discord server as well, go ahead and do that because you guys are saving money at that point. Okay, so that is it. My sales pitch. Let's get into the guys' Q&A side of things, and we'll call it a day. Pretty easy one for today. Yep. Okay, Q&A side of things. See if you guys have any questions, comments, or anything like that. Let's see. Okay. Gio says, "Hi Sebastian, I'm really worried about Cleanspark. How do you feel about them increasing their shares by 300 million? Do you still think they will perform well going forward?" Yeah, I talked about that a little bit before, like in the middle of the video here. We saw also Riot increase their shares from 400 million that's allowed to them to like 800 million, I believe it was, this year. So, I mean, it's par for the course, unfortunately. But they've been, I would say, probably like Cleanspark has been maybe one of the best stewards of shareholder dilution here in the last couple of years, 3 years or so, considering where they were, where they are right now. I think they will do the same thing going forward. So I'm not too worried about that, to be honest. I think as long as we continue to grow, and they've been really good at doing that, I don't see a problem with it, to be quite honest. Tomorrow we may have a dip on it because of everybody being fearful about it, but it's not an ATM that they're going to dilute right now. It's just basically having access to an additional 300 million shares if they choose to use an ATM or something like that to dilute in the future. I don't know if they're going to do that. It could be future, it could be tomorrow. They could come out with an ATM tomorrow for $1 billion. Who knows? But I'm just saying that if that happens, that's still fine as long as they are growing and trying to be like maybe even being the top miner here. I mean, they're not too far away from Marathon right now with their growth rate for this year, and then what they're getting in next year as well. So we'll see. What else we got here? Let's see. Scott Song W says, "I can't believe Cleanspark is doing the mother of all dilution after they screwed everyone back in March. They say the proceeds will go to buying other facilities, and then they buy a jet." Yeah, so I just talked about that. They're not diluting right now. It's just giving them access. So it's basically, it's kind of like, I wouldn't say it's an ATM yet, because it's an ATM, you can actually do it, but it's basically having like a credit limit on the number of shares that you have. So right now their credit limit is at 300 million shares. They're at 240, 250 million shares, wherever they might be right now. So they only have 50 million shares left that they can actually use potentially. It's like a credit limit on the amount of shares that they have. So another 300 million will be added to it. But yeah, I'm okay with it. Let's see. Okay. Hi Seb, which software do you recommend to read spreadsheets on a PC? I mean, Acrobat's really good. Or spreadsheets. You're talking about spreadsheets on a PC. On a PC, if it's my spreadsheets, you're probably better off reading them on a PDF format. I know when I export them from Apple Numbers to Excel, some of the formulas break, and there's some other quirks in it because the way that Microsoft Excel spreadsheets works, it won't display it correctly, or the same manner that I have my spreadsheet set up. So I would go with PDFs possibly. But if you're looking at regular spreadsheets, Excel, obviously. Let's see. What do you think of price prediction of Bitfarms, IREN, BitDigital, and Hive if BTC reaches at 100 to 150,000? Bitfarms, IREN, I think will do very well. BitDigital, okay, I would think maybe that Bitfarms and IREN would do like a 3x to a 4x. BitDigital might only do like a 2x to a 3x along with Hive. I think the ones that have more growth, like Bitfarms and IREN, could possibly get more than that even. But that's just kind of like, conservative numbers, I would think. Let's see. James says, pre-market price for Cleanspark is negative 1.5%. Hopefully the impact is not as bad as we think. Yeah, I mean, if it even dips a little bit here, eventually it'll go back up. I'm not too worried. Let's see. On top of that, what's the point of buying other facilities to grow? It it doesn't. Nothing to their share price. Look at grid. Well, I mean, it's doing that to not only their share price, but to all the miners right now. Excuse me. Bitcoin is in a funk right now after the halving event, which is kind of normal, what we've seen in the past. If Bitcoin starts going up to, 70, 80,000, 90,000, whatever it might be, and Cleanspark doesn't react to that, okay, that might be a problem at that point, but I don't expect that to happen. Let's see. Thoughts on Riot price if August mining numbers come to 480 BTC? Well, let's take a look at where were they in July. So let's go to Riot here. Right. Let's see. Riot also depends on what the hash rate is going to be. But let's take a look at it here. So Riot mined, what did they mine? 370, 480. So that would be nice. 480. What is their hash rate going to be at that point? Their hash rate at the end of July was 23 exahash, right? But can they increase their uptime much more on that as well? That's the big thing I think that investors are looking for is better uptimes, especially at Corsicana facility. So kind of hard to tell right now, but we'll see. Okay, back here. Let's see. Okay, if you have cash and assuming Cleanspark goes down considerably, will you still be buying Cleanspark? Yes. If it goes down below, if it gets close to $9, I would say I would start probably buying it more. Originally, when I started buying it back in 2022 in January, it was around $9 at that point, and I bought it all the way down. So if it gets close to that, I'll start buying it again. Let's see. Hi, Seb, are you still adding your Cleanspark position? What other miners are you buying at these current prices? Thank you. So I've been buying the last 2 to 3 weeks. I've been trying to save up cash because I had to pay for property taxes. And now I have to do a deductible on my roof that had damage from the mild tornado that we got a couple weeks back. So I'm hoping to start buying in the next maybe week or two. If that's the case, as long as the miners stay down where they are right now, I'd love to buy more. I just wish I had more cash. Let's see. Any thoughts on the insider purchase of CORZ? I have not looked into that. I've not heard about that. But if the insiders are buying, that's a good sign, right? Typically, that's usually a pretty good sign. Okay, what else we got here? Let's see here. Song WS, but will they dilute? You really think it will go to $70 per share at the peak now? Your shares will go to half. You need to change your peak price target to $35 while Mara will be at 80 at the time. Well, so Mara's also been diluting. Mara's diluting the whole time because they're hodling everything. They're not selling anything. But it also depends on when and how much do they dilute. Right? If the price is up here at $10, $15, $20, you're going to have to dilute a lot less to get a lot more money for it. So there's going to be a lot less dilution than we've seen here in the last 3 years. In the last 3 years, they were diluting at like $2, $1 something, $3. They were diluting in all those price ranges. So they diluted a heck of a lot. They diluted possibly like, what was it, 200 to 250 million shares? Well, not even that. I'd say 150 million to 200 million shares to get to where they are right now. If they dilute that again to get to 100 exahash or 150 exahash, whatever it might be in the next couple of years, it might be even higher than that. I'm okay with it because at that point, they're going to be generating so much more revenue because of it. So you also take a look into the consideration that is where are they getting to this year, which is 32 exahash. They have miners on order to get to 50 exahash, which I think are already fully funded. So that gets them to 50. If they go beyond that, depending when they buy, what kind of machines they're going to be buying as well. I mean, we have so many improvements in ASICs as well that you, instead of having to buy like 5,000 machines to get an exahash, you might only have to buy 3,000 machines or something like that. So you're buying less to get more out of the machines as well. So it's not just that they're going to dilute 300 million shares right away. It took them 3 years to do that. And the bull cycle is going to be basically into the next year sometime. So we're looking only a year out. I don't expect them to dilute a full 300 million shares in a year. Okay, what else we got here? Where's the BTC supply crunch everybody preached pre-halving? We got the supply crunch, but we also have a lag, I guess you could say, in it. And if you look at the prior cycles as well, there is a lag after the halving cycle until when Bitcoin starts ripping up much higher. And we're getting close to that lag being over, I think. Let's see. Venkat says, any thoughts? I'm planning to dump my half of my Cleanspark portion and putting it to IREN since I have 5,000 shares in Bitfarms, and that's why. Please inputs. If you're in the green, I would say, yeah, go ahead and do it. I did the same thing with Cleanspark a couple months back when I took basically whatever I put into it and put into IREN at that point. So, yeah, I think right now IREN is probably more undervalued than Cleanspark is, just based on what we're seeing here, at least right now. Do you think the miners have bottomed out? September is going to be an interesting month for us. We'll have to see. I think they're close to the bottom if they haven't already bottomed out. If September is going to be a green month for us, at least a little bit, then I think we might have bottomed out. If we still go down a little bit here in Bitcoin in September, then maybe not, because it's just prolonging until we start going up. At that point, people might be getting frustrated and getting out of the miners. So that's maybe why. Let's see. So you really think Cleanspark will still go to 70 this cycle? Honest truth. I think it's going to be close. I'm saying maybe now, depending. I mean, if they dilute a crap ton, then probably not. But if they dilute, 10 to 50 million shares, I think they can still get to that, depending on what their hash rate is going to be. So I'm looking more so between $60 and $70 on them right now. But that's being conservative also. See. Do you feel like Bitfarms is overpaying for its acquisition on Stronghold? I mean, $6. I mean, they're paying a little bit of premium there, but maybe they see something that we don't see there. At least maybe Ben sees something that we don't see. If they've been looking into them for 3 years and been in talks for that long, I don't know. The pipeline is looking pretty good there for them, for the megawatts that they can get potentially. So it's tough to say. I think they probably ran the numbers for themselves, and it looks like a pretty good bet for them. So I'm just going to go with that. Let's see. Okay. I think I've caught up to all you guys' questions here right now. Okay. What else we got here? Blessed be on. Okay, I can pronounce that. Turbo optics for Cleanspark to purchase a company jet and now do this. I mean, the jet was only, like $10, $11 million or something like that? Yeah, I mean, they purchased it, but they got so many doggone more locations. It's not like they're located just in Georgia like they were in the beginning. Then they got Georgia, Mississippi, Tennessee, Wyoming. What else do they have in there? They got stuff all over the place. So once you start getting to a certain point where you start getting really, really busy, you have to look at your opportunity costs and your time spent. So if you have guys traveling between facilities and things like that, and you're spending, 1 hour going to the airport, you got to be there like 2 hours in advance. I mean, how much time are you wasting because of that? So does a jet make more sense at that point to basically go to a private airport? You get in, you fly off. I mean, you're saving all that time there, and then getting your baggage, all that stuff. If you have baggage, if you have carry-ons, it's a different story. But yeah, there's just so much more time savings in it. So that's kind of the way I would look at it. If they were only, let's say, if they were like a $200 million market cap company and they bought themselves a jet, I'd be against it. But with them getting to where they are right now with 2.5 billion, 2.6 billion in a market cap, if they spend $10, $11 million on a jet because they can be more efficient because of it, to send their people where they need to go to maybe troubleshoot things, to look at facilities, to possibly buy facilities and things like that, time savings is huge, because at that point, I mean, you're paying people a pretty penny to just sit around and do nothing for those 3 hours when they could be actually doing something else. So I'm okay with it, right? It'd be one thing if they spent $50 million or something like that, but even 100 million, whatever it is. But yeah, so I'm okay with that because there are efficiencies in play here. Okay. What do we got here? I missed something here. Okay. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Found one. Hi, Seb. Your latest thoughts on Cypher, please. They don't seem to be pushing for a buyout anymore, and they have had some good progress lately. Thanks. Well, they were never really pushing for the buyout. There was just talks, and there were rumors that they might be a buyout candidate by somebody. So they're still getting to, what is it, like 13, 14 exahash this year that they're planning to get to, which is good. A lot of their growth is going to be next year. They also bought more facilities to increase even more megawatts. So they got a lot of megawatts going forward that you need to build out on it. With them, it's, they also said they want to get into AI, HPC. We'll see if they can get something like that in there. But the big thing for them is the growth into 2025 and into 2026. Let's see here. Will CORZ be a winner of this cycle? I don't think it'll be a winner. They might be. They have a lot of potential, especially when you get into later on next year, right? With the HPC AI business they're getting from CoreWeave, if they can build out, or not build out, but if they can retrofit the facilities that they do have there for the tier 3 data centers that they need them to be. If they can do that, and if CoreWeave can install the servers that they need to install there and start generating the revenue, I think so, along with if they can change out their older machines, get newer machines in there as well from block that they're buying, 15 exahash worth. That's the deal that they're working on. That's nothing concrete yet. So if they can do that, then yes, I think they might be one of the top ones here, especially if you look at from where they were towards the bottom end of things and where they came up. Yeah, they're going to be probably like the top performers here. Let's see here. Sentiment in this chat shows market participants are frustrated, fearful. Buy signal, in my opinion, in confluence with ranging BTC charge, chopping the normies before the market takes their FOMO liquidity. LOL. Yeah, I mean, we're seeing quite a bit of that with not only from you guys, the viewers, but also I'm seeing it in Twitter. I'm seeing it in other places as well. People are just fearful because, I mean, miners are down quite a bit from where they were just at the beginning of the year. Things have not done as well as probably people thought it was going to be. I try to at least warn people that usually after the halving event, things get a little tricky, and then it takes a little while for things to pick up again. So I kind of expected this. So I wasn't too concerned about it. I dollar cost average in some more during the summertime as well, because I know eventually things will pick up. I just don't know exactly when. We keep saying October, November. That's kind of what we're looking at. Okay. Hello, Sub. The current trend is very discouraging. Will the BTC and the miners bleed further in September? Based on historicals, September has not been a great month for us. So it hasn't been really that bad month even. Let's see, here's a chart. Excuse me. Here's a chart for BTC September. You can see here a lot of red months of September in the last basically 11 years or so. We've had a couple months that were in the green. We'll see how we end up at. Even if we're down a little bit, 5%, 7%, whatever it might be on average here in September, that wouldn't be too bad. But then October should be a much better month. But we might get a green month here in September if history repeats here from 2015 and 2016 as well, right? So we might be a little bit up, but I wouldn't expect anything major at least. If we do get anything major, it's going to be nice, but we'll see. Okay. Okay. Hey Seb, was Hive mining BTC per exahash and publicly traded in 2016? Thanks. Yes, they were mining Bitcoin and Ethereum. They weren't publicly traded. They were, I think, on the Canadian Stock Exchange, maybe in 2016. I know for sure they were on 2017. I know that for sure, but I don't know about 2016. Let's see. Riot price target, this cycle peak. I don't know where that right now. That's tough because I need to see much more improved uptime at Corsicana facility and even at Rockdale facility that they have right now. We'd like to see those improve. If those improve, then I think they're going to do pretty doggone well. But if they can't get those improved, I mean, you guys saw how the stock has done so far this year in the last 52 weeks. It hasn't done great. So we'll have to see. What are the most undervalued miners today? Well, let's take a look at that number here. We'll take a look at the enterprise value 2 exahash. There it is. And I think these are the latest numbers here. So here's that current hash rate on the miners. You can see that Hive and Riot, along with Bitfarms, excuse me, currently based on current exahash to enterprise value are pretty undervalued. If you look out to the future part of it, you can see that at that point, Riot is the number one most undervalued. Iris, Cleanspark, you got Hive, but Hive doesn't have a lot of growth, so I wouldn't kind of count Hive in there. Bitfarms as well. And you get into Cypher, Marathon, Hot 8 afterwards. But some of these guys that are at here right now, like TerraWolf, BitDigital, and Core, Core, I think, is being valued more on their potential for HPC AI into next year than even their self-mining, but their self-mining is going to improve also. So they're kind of maybe well valued right now as it is. But these two guys, Bit Digital and TeraWolf, I think will have to come down here in the future, but we'll see. That's kind of what I'm seeing right now. Okay. Let's see. Sour Lemon makes a pretty good point. Instead of complaining about Cleanspark's jet, people should complain about Riot's lack of operational performance, and they diluted investors into the ground over the last year. Riot is no longer investable. I don't think that they're no longer investable. One thing that irked me with Riot was their share-based compensation the last 2 quarters has been extremely high, and their operational uptime hasn't been great. So I need to see that improve as well. So how high Cypher price can go if Bitcoin is 150,000? Thanks. Where's Cypher at right now? Cypher is at 351. If Bitcoin does a 2x, I would expect them to do at least 3 to 4x potentially. Just with the marginal growth that they do have here this year, and then more growth into next year. If they can grow substantially into next year as well, especially with the Bitcoin running up, they could possibly catch 5 to 7x at that point, I would think. But we need to see the growth from them as well. Let's see. Okay. SongW says, Trade Cave says Cleanspark agreed with you saying it could peak $70 a cycle, but in his latest video, he says peak will now be 35 to 37. He says that they will dilute all 600 million in this cycle once they vote. Yeah, I don't see that happening. I mean, you got to look at how much they diluted over the last 3 years and where the stock price was and how long it took them to dilute to 300 million, right? Stock price was much, much lower. Take that into consideration. I don't think, who's that? Trade Cave is not taking it into consideration. Right. So, and then stock price is where it's at right now. You're talking about less dilution even going forward. So I would expect the 300 million shares to even last them potentially even longer. I'm now thinking that could last them like maybe 4, 5, 6, 7 years, if not longer than that, as long as the stock price stays up. That also the HODL that they have right now. HODL goes up 3x from here. You got 1.2 billion to maybe even more than that, or somewhere around there, even 1 billion, let's just say. So they have that 1 billion that they could use in the bear market. Less dilution happening then. Even if they still only half of it. So you got 500 million at that point to grow as well. So less dilution from that. So I just don't see that happening. But I could be wrong. Andy says September goes Rectember. Yeah, October equals Uptober. Yep. So we'll see. The IREN dollar price target this peak, BTC peak. I'm still thinking around $80 right now. We'll see how much they dilute more. That could bring us down a little bit, but I think around $80 would be somewhere in there. Let's see. Fed rate cut coming this month. Expect volatility, but I think we see plus 5 to 10% in BTC by the end of it. I think we had a front running due to Japan carryover. Maybe. That would be great. Let's see. Seb, tweet by Mike Alfred. Which tweet? Let me take a look really quick, see if I can find it. What's the tweet about? Okay, let's see it. Well, I see one here from Mike. Who do you think is the most important representative of Bitcoin? Like for Sailor, retweet for Kaiserhoff. I don't know if that's the one that you're looking for. Let me see here. Mike Alfred, if there's another one. I'm not sure which one. Okay, so here's a couple of tweets from him right now. This was November. Oh, this is from last year. This is pinned. 23 minutes ago when I was a kid, I didn't know any boys who wanted to be girls or girls. Oh, he's talking about that. I don't know what to articulate about this. Bitcoiners are on an entirely different level than no coiners. And I don't know which tweet you're talking about from Mike Alfred. Let's see. Let's go back here. See, breaking sources indicate the SEC is preparing to investigate Jane Street and several other market for blatant manipulation. Oh, okay, I did see that. Yeah, we'll see what happens to that if that is the case. That would be interesting if they are manipulating Bitcoin, which, I mean, some people would think they are. I mean, because you're seeing miners holding a heck of a lot more Bitcoin. You're also seeing companies buying more Bitcoin. And then you're seeing ETFs buying Bitcoin as well. So it seems kind of out of whack that Bitcoin's still trading sideways or even being down. We'll see. Let's see. TG the Wheel Deal says I have 70,000. Wow. Shares of Riot, average cost of 9-ish. Thought it was a super easy double this cycle, if not even a triple. But man, they just can't seem to get it together. In my opinion, management seems overpaid. Jeez, yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, that is a tough one, right? This past 52 weeks, it hasn't been good for you guys, for investors. Let's see how we can confidently bet miners are going to outperform BTC in this bull market, considering the huge risk we are taking being in miners. That's kind of the reason why you're in this, because you believe the miners are going to outperform Bitcoin. Historically, they have done so. And even some of the miners have done this already this last 52 weeks, if you look at the data that we have. So that's the reason why we're in it, because it's it's possibly of a better upside. But the downside of it is more volatility, and you have these kind of largest price swings in it. Let's see. Okay, Cleanspark. What miner has the cost? What miner has the lowest cost per mining BTC? I think it might be TeraWulf. TeraWulf, and then Cypher, and then possibly Cleanspark. Let's see. A little late to the stream question. What are your thoughts on Cleanspark increasing? I talked about that. If you want to watch before, I'm okay with it. I know that I'm going to use the whole 300 million here in the next year. That it's going to take them, I'm guessing, at least probably 5 to 7 years to use that up now, with the price being much better where it's at. Their HODL being much better. Also, their basically balance sheet is much better. I just don't see them using that up right away. Let's see. Trying to catch up with the questions here. Let's see, question 17th. Do you feel after the rate cut will begin of a bull run? I would think so. That usually means risk on assets at that point, right? So miners, Bitcoin, those are risk on assets. I would think that those would do well, but we'll see. Fred says, with Cleanspark, they bought a plane. We shareholders technically own it. Yeah, I own like 0.000 some percent of it. I don't know about you guys. I doubt they're going to let us use it. Let's see. Let's see. On X, Cleanspark CEO said they increased authorized shares from 100 million to 300 million, and there's something. Didn't finish up here. Yeah, they did do that. When did they do that? A couple of years ago. But it took them a couple of years to go through that. Plus, you got to remember, their share price was much lower at that point. Okay. Is Riot the poorest performing miner? Someone said it's not worth investing in. They've had a lot of problems in the last 18, 24 months, you could say. Uptime hasn't been great. They've had production problems with older machines as well. They had a storm knock them out for a while. And then just recently they've been, doing a lot of share-based compensation that's been, I think, kind of off-putting people as well. And their operations still aren't that great. So they need to improve on all of those fronts, I think. Let's see. What is IREN's break even when they hit 20 exahash and 30 exahash? It should come down from my numbers that I have here. So maybe we'll do this again when I report August numbers or September numbers again, maybe. Typically, I don't do the break-evens unless I get the quarterly results, but maybe we'll look at that just as an estimated number where they could be possibly. Let's see. Song says, sorry to express my frustration, Seb, but the slimiest thing Cleanspark did was Matt or Zach selling their load back in March right before the additional ATM. It tells me a lot about their true character. And they did explain that, so I'm not going to, you're going to look at it the way you're going to look at it. So I can't defend every action that they do. but I think it was Matt or Zach came out with saying that they were pre-planned sells at that point. I think it was a stock which is at $21 or something like that. They would sell a portion of it. So, we had the chance to sell also at that point. The stock was much higher. I held on to it as well because me personally, I don't day trade. I want to accumulate more and more as time goes on for several years and then sell towards the top if I can get close to it. I don't need to get close to it, or I don't need to get exact top, but if I can start selling before the top and then after the top, I'll be happy with it. But yeah, there's always a nuance to it, right? There's always times when the CFO or the CEO and other company owners or management can't sell because they're in a blackout period. They can't trade it at certain times as well. So a lot of the times that they do this stuff is pre-planned. That way they can't be held for insider trading potentially. What else we got here? Which says 3 years ago, they are now at 250 million plus. Shares issued now takes years to dilute, not weeks, like FUD implies. Yeah, exactly. Like I said, in the past couple of years, their stock was much lower priced. They were diluting more because of it. I'm expecting less dilution because their stock price is much higher than where it was back then. Let's see. Your stock price looks terrible on Bitfarms. When can it be $5? I wish it was $5 right now. I think it should be based on just the fundamentals. Two things that are going against it right now, I think, is that it's Canadian based. Maybe that you're not seeing much institutional. When we look at the institutions, they're like at 24, in a 20% range, somewhere around there with institutions right now. Whereas if you look at some of the other companies, they're much higher on that are US based. And then you got Riot also kind of lingering in the background there as well. I think maybe that's keeping it down. Let's see. Victor says, hope IREN gets an AI deal soon. Yeah, I mean, that's a tough one there. I've talked about this on the X before as well. It's like, okay, we got Core with CoreWeave. That's a huge contract there. Core was very, very well funded. I mean, billions of dollars funding. What other companies do you have out there that are that well funded that can, that want to increase their AI footprint in a quick time frame, right? Because CoreWeave wants to get their machines up and running sometime in early to mid 2025 with Core. Who else do you have that's super funded? They can spend all this money on with one of these miners. I just don't see it right now. All the stuff that I'm hearing is like Amazon, Microsoft, Google, they're all spending billions of dollars on their own to build out their own infrastructure. Whether it's the TPUs for Google, right? They're using those. I think Amazon's probably using, NVIDIA's chips. We know that Apple is using actually Google's TPUs for their AI as well. I mean, that's kind of the way I'm seeing things here. It's maybe the smaller companies that are kind of looking to maybe build their large language models. They might use some of the other miners, but it's not going to be anything massive, or at least I don't see it right now. I could be wrong on that. And I hope I'm wrong on that, because that'd be nice for some of these guys to get these kind of contracts that CoreWeave provided to CORZ. But I just don't know if they're out there. Let's see. What else we got here? Where did I miss here? I missed a couple here. Okay, I can talk about that one. Let's see what else we got here. Why do people like IREN so much? I'm not familiar. How's their balance sheet? Their balance sheet is really good right now. They got a healthy balance sheet. They're fully funded to, I believe, to 30 exahash this year. The reason that people like them a lot is because their growth. Their growth has been kind of like on par with Cleanspark's here in the last, I would say, year to year and a half or so. So they came out, when was it? April. I think it was April. April, they came out that they're going to be increasing their hash rate to 30 exahash, improving the timeline when they're going to get to that 20 exahash to Q3 instead of Q4. So that was a huge improvement there. and them getting to 30 exahash. That's possibly why people really like them there. They have a pipeline of a lot of megawatts in the future as well. So that's another reason there. So just a lot of good things going for them. Any update on those malfunction Bitmain miners? So IREN had some. Bitfarms had some also. Those are the T21s. Bitfarms was supposed to get those by the end of this month, or by the end of August now, because we're in September. And IREN's supposed to get those as well by the end of the year here, I believe, because they have more miners coming in anyways. So they should be okay with that. But no update there. If Bitcoin takes longer than expected to pump, will more miners be fleeced to merge in order to survive? Potentially. Fleeced, forced, yeah. Forced, merged, yeah. Okay. Olman says, hit the like button, people. It's a great investment, and it's free. Yeah, it is, and I would appreciate it. Thank you. Let's see. Okay, the Cleanspark adding shares is complete BS. Not happy. You have to look in. Well, I'm not going to tell you you have to. But if you want to be educated and see what's going on there, take a look at what they did in the last 3 years, where the stock was and how much they diluted, and look to where they possibly will do in the next 3 to 4 years. I would say maybe 5 years with those 300 million shares, if not even longer than that. So always look in the other direction as well. Not just what you're hearing. 300 million sounds a lot, but what did they do with the first 300 million? Take that into consideration as well. So do you think Cleanspark is getting for a big move to acquire another company in 2025, or do you think they're going to go overseas? I know they talked about eventually maybe going to other countries to mine. Yeah, they talked about it. We don't have anything concrete right now. I think they will have to buy some more, either private miners. Public miners might be a little tough at that point if Bitcoin starts going up higher, but there may be private miners that might do that, or some sites, or they will actually go overseas. We'll have to see, but I do expect them to grow more. They need more megawatts in order to get to 50 exahash anyways. Ink says, great stream, Seb. Thank you so much. Good night. Good night to you as well. Thanks for coming in. Let's see. Hi, Seb. You mentioned on Spaces with A that you are not in favor of Cleanspark, etc. hosting. Why is that? Thanks. Okay, so historically, hosting has been a losing business for miners. We saw Riot get out of hosting, right? Why? Because, well, they had bad contracts that they acquired, basically. But it was just a bad deal there. They were losing money on it all the time. You had CORZ. CORZ also had the same issues with it, with hosting. They're getting out of the hosting business as well in the next, I'm guessing, 6 months to a year when those contracts start ending. So they're out of that as well. It is just not typically a good thing to be in. If you're going to build out megawatts, you might as well put your own equipment in there and get as much return on investment in that as possible from that. Companies historically that have gone to hosting have had financial issues. So we saw that with Mawson in 2022. They started to pivot more into a hosting system along with Soluna. We saw that with others as well. So that's the way I look at it. If I hear that Cleanspark or anybody else, IREN, that I'm investing in, or Bitfarms is going to be going with hosting, that is a clear sign to me to sell. Get the heck out of that stock as quickly as possible because things are not looking great. But I don't expect that to happen anytime soon. Hosting on HPC AI is different. So if they get hosting for that, different ball game, much better profit margins, all that stuff goes into it. But for Bitcoin mining hosting, no, not into it at all. What else we got here? Fred says, Seb, I like that you are so positive. Nice to see the bright side of miners, even if I hesitate to invest in them at all. Yeah, you gotta have a thick stomach for the miners, and thick-skinned also, because things don't always look rosy with them. A lot of the time, I would say like 85-90% of the time, things look like crap with the miners. But the 15 to 10% of the time when they do bounce, oh my gosh, they look great. So that's kind of what I'm in for. I'm okay with the 85 to 90% of the time when they look like total dog poo-poo. But just the upside potential is so great that I overlook the rest of it. Let's see. Great stuff, Seb. Love being able to tune in and save a lot of time of doing due diligence on the miners. That's why I do it for you guys. So you guys don't have to do it. It is a lot of work. Let's see. Mark says, IREN was in Singapore recently, based in Australia, so I'm expecting monster growth in low-cost PPA areas globally for IREN. Well, IREN already has, 3 gigawatts potentially under their belt. I don't know where that's exactly located. Nobody really knows on that one. But yeah, it'd be kind of interesting. So I don't know if they're going to go even more than that. They probably would, but they got to build out the first 3 gigawatts they have. What else? Okay, Song has final question. You think Cleanspark will more likely hit 70 or Mara will more likely hit 80 in this cycle by 2025? By the way, do you own Mara? I do not own Mara. And the reason I don't own Mara is because of their operations over the last 2 years have not been great. That's kind of one of the things that I look at. Their costs also have been pretty high, so that's why I haven't been into Mara. But Mara has that name recognition again. Right? If you search for Bitcoin miners on Google or something like that, one of the top ones going to pop up is going to be Marathon, and that's kind of, they're the top one here right now because of that. But do I think will Cleanspark be likely to hit $70 Mara? Will more likely to hit 80? Oh gosh, I don't know. I mean, Mara got to $30. Cleanspark got to like $25 already. It's going to be tough. It will depend on who can get to, if Marathon get to 50 exahash before Cleanspark gets to 32 exahash, then maybe. And depending where they go past that, especially into 2025, because we know their targets for this year are Marathon 50 exahash, Cleanspark 32 exahash. If Cleanspark can outpace them potentially in 2025, I mean, they already have miners in purchase to get to 50 exahash, so that's kind of tying Marathon. We need to see where both companies go into 2025 at that point. It's just not that easy. Okay. All right. Cut up to all you guys' questions here. We're going on an hour now already. And then we're going to call it a day. I got work tomorrow. I'm sure you guys have work tomorrow too as well. Some of you guys might be actually waking up tonight. But that is it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And thank you so much for coming in on all these. So we'll do another one tomorrow. We'll see what we get as far as updates from the miners. I'm expecting Bitfarms to report. I'm expecting maybe Cleanspark, maybe IREN will also report. Marathon Rise will usually get 2 or 3 days out after that, but we'll see. Okay, we'll see what happens there. We'll see how the numbers come in for those miners, and we'll discuss anything else that happens during that time frame. But like I said before, I say it all the time: be patient. This is definitely a very volatile space that we're in. I mean, I don't think you can get any more volatile than the Bitcoin miners. I mean, we're just so niche in this space. It's crazy. All right, but that is it. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Hope you guys have a wonderful night. Hope you guys have a great weekend. We are getting close to fall now, September. It's unbelievable that the summer's over with. Another year almost done and over with. Wow. Okay, I'll see you guys tomorrow.